Hi guys, welcome to Leonardo's Pizzeria. Remember, it doesn't actually exist, it's just in my mind and in my home. So we're going to this video, we're going to talk about how to make a great pizza sauce for your pizza. So, I see people all the time buying pre-made pizza sauce at the store. Don't do it. It's not necessary. It's so easy to make great pizza sauce. All you need to do is pick up a can of sort of Italian tomatoes. Now, in Italy, they have a particular designation called DOP, San Marzano tomatoes. Now that means they're actually certified being from the San Marzano region in southern Italy. So these are really the best tomatoes. They're beautifully done, and they're whole tomatoes, and what you need to do is, mix them up and get them ready for your pizza. But this is just an example. This isn't a brand that I'm crazy about. It's just what I happen to have here, this Riga brand, DOP, San Marzano tomatoes. But you can find all sorts of them, and the thicker the better as far as I'm concerned. If like on this one, you can hear there's a fair bit of liquid in here, and you want a thicker one. But for our purposes, you'll see that this is going to work out really well. So let's just start out by opening them up. Don't steal any of the tomatoes out of there. You just got to open them up, and let's see what we got. Now, sometimes these come with basil inside. It doesn't matter if it's got basil or not. There's hardly any basil. And there we go. So here we are. I'm just going to empty this in here. Now, there's two ways to do the tomato, getting it sort of mixed up. A lot of people will use, and there's nothing wrong with this, if you want to use an immersion blender, okay? So an immersion blender, just put it in. I guess you got to plug it in to make it work. But you put it in and you can mix it up and it'll be really fine, okay? I prefer a chunkier tomato when I'm with my pizza. So I'm not going to use the immersion blender, but you're certainly welcome to do so. So this is going to seem weird to many people, but here's how you do it. If you want to do a great chunky tomato, and this is good for both if you're going to make a tomato sauce for your pasta, or if you're going to do it for your tomatoes, your pizza, it's the same technique. And it's just called get in there and get ugly and just squish them. Just squish them. This is something that you would probably want to do when you were a little kid, barefoot. Maybe kind of like making wine. But no, this is really quite good. All you have to do is go in there with your hands, make sure they're clean, and give them a good, just squish them. That's all you have to do. And this is used all over Italy, actually. This is not something I'm just making up. This is a very common technique. You just take your hand, go in there, and just mix them up. And you can decide how fine you want them. Just keep mixing and mixing and mixing until you get it to a level that you're happy with. But like I say, I like a little chunkier sauce on my pizza, so that's how I make it. Now, another technique that I've seen some people do is you get that can, and what you do is you take the tomatoes, you lift them up, and you can squish them and get the water out of the middle of them, and then just take the tomato out and then put it in, and then you leave the juice behind in the container. You could do that. I don't want to waste it. And then the other thing I've seen people do is I've seen people cook their tomato sauce before they put it onto their pizza. Certainly, that's not the traditional way of doing it, but it's okay if that's something you want to do. It certainly adds a lot more flavor. Now, one of the things that I'm often disappointed in when I'm making this sauce is that it's kind of bland in flavor. It really is. So the two things that I do to enhance the flavor, of course, is you have to add salt, so that's easy, and I'll do that in a moment. And then I also add a bunch of oregano. I add about 2 to 3 tablespoons for one can. I add quite a bit because I really like oregano, and I think it's great with tomatoes. So here's the oregano here, right here. It's dried oregano, and all I do is I'm just going to add it right in. That's probably about enough. And then you can just keep mixing it in. Okay, and you get this beautiful, beautiful tomato sauce that you can use on your pizza. Now, what you're going to definitely need is to put some salt in there. I can tell you right now that those tomatoes don't have a lot of flavor. So I put in, that's about maybe a teaspoon, and then I've got to mix it in good. And then the important thing for me, I know some people don't like to do this, but I think it's a good idea to taste it. If you taste it, you're going to find what does it need? Does it need a little bit more salt? And I'm going to give you a little secret that I learned in Italy, and maybe I shouldn't be telling it. Maybe it was supposed to be kept overseas, but I'm going to tell you in a moment. So give me a second to try this. I want to see how it is. So I'm going to get a spoon and just try a little bit. Yeah, so this is going to need just a smidge more salt. So that's going to be good. And then the secret that I'm going to tell you about that nobody will ever tell you is this. Wait, I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be just a second. And the secret is this. Adding a little bit of sugar. Now because sometimes the tomatoes are not that sweet. It depends when they've picked them. So I add a little bit. In this case, maybe half of a tablespoon, something like that. And just to add a slight little bit of sweetness, and it's really nice. And then I'm going to get a spoon here, a mixing spoon. So now, let's see how that is going to turn out. So that's great. Look at this beautiful sauce that I've got. I'm going to grab another spoon here, and let's try this. Oh my God, that is perfect. Really, really good. Doesn't need any more salt. The sugar just added a little bit of sweetness to those tomatoes. There we go. Now I like to make this about 2 to 3 hours in advance of making the pizza because the flavors need to really blend, especially with the oregano. So it's ready to go. I'm going to set this aside, and then this is going to go on our pizzas in a moment.